and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share my review of Gods of the Forbidden North Volume 2 from Pulp Hummock Press. This 530-page hardcover with PDF can be had over at DriveThruRPG for $69.99. Or if you want to just grab the PDF alone, you can do so for $24.99. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Volume 2 of Gods of the Forbidden North. A few things to mention before we dive on in. First of all, my friends over at Pulp Hummock Press were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's very important, you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside this second volume. And then lastly, this is a continuation of the massive Gods of the Forbidden North adventure campaign. So if you are a player, even though I'm going to stay spoiler-free in this review, you're probably going to see some things as I page through that might ruin the surprises of the adventures contained within. So I do want to warn you about that, but I am going to stay pretty spoiler-free throughout this review. Now, of course, if your game master has been kicking around, maybe picking up Gods of the Forbidden North, by all means, let them know about this review so that way they can approach this second volume and make a far more informed buying decision. First thing we're going to do is take a look at the credits page because there were a lot of folks outside of just Robert Alderman who worked very hard on bringing this to life. So let's give credit where credit is due. If you're not familiar with Gods of the Forbidden North, it is a, once again, massive adventure campaign, which is designed for use with Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy. So it is recommended that you own both volumes for Advanced Fantasy as well as the first volume of Gods of the Forbidden North. And there's a few reasons why you should have the first volume. Obviously enough, it's because there are some plot threads that continue from the first volume into the second. Something else that I would also mention is that there's a ton of world building in the first volume. There's some here too, as we start delving into the underworld of this region. But as far as the region of Vulcangard and the various different cities and towns and religions and different factions, most of that information is going to be found in that first volume. So you want to have that available to you. As far as the adventures contained within, we get a really nice mix. We still get some surface level adventuring, even though our main focus here is on the underworld. We get some urban adventuring, which I always appreciate seeing. We get some various different dungeons of different sizes for the player characters to explore also. So I dig that. There are loads and loads of NPCs in this second volume of Gods of the Forbidden North. And we get artwork for those NPCs. So you can easily share the artwork with your players so that they can see who are these NPCs that they're interacting with. So I thought that was a very cool touch here also. As far as the adventuring itself, we're looking at tales which are designed to take the player characters from levels 5 through 9. Although it is mentioned that if you were to run every single aspect of Volume 2 for your players, they should actually end up right around level 12. So this is some really interesting mid-level adventuring that's taking place. As far as the production quality of the book, very, very solid, as we've come to expect from DriveThruRPG lately. Although I will say that we do have some pages where there's a lot of dark ink, and then we end up having the page when you we actually get to the page, it's kind of curved. That's something that we see with print on demand a lot, and that is present here. It's not a big deal. It's just something that I do want to point out. But as you can see, cartography throughout is excellent. As you can see, we've got some really cool hex maps throughout. So we do have a hex crawl aspect to Gods of the Forbidden North. In fact, this map is designed by my pal Glyn Seal of Midderlands fame. And the artwork throughout is solid. We've got some really cool pieces. And then we have some cartoonish pieces. So it is really a mixed bag as far as the artwork goes. But that also kind of drives home the old school vibe of the proceedings as well. Speaking of old school, I will mention that this layout is not what you would find with OSE adventures from Necrotic Gnome. So even though this is designed for Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy, it is not an OSE sort of presentation where a lot of adventures for Old School Essentials are kind of skeletons of adventures and we get a lot of bullet points. That is not the case here. Although the layout of each of the adventures, each of the areas, each of the locations and rooms and keyed locales is laid out intuitively. This is probably a bit more verbose than some folks who are into the OSR would be comfortable with. I completely understand that. But it's not as if this is just page after page of fluff that you're not going to be able to utilize at your game table. Yes, sure, we do get some explanations of, okay, this room used to be used for XYZ, but it's not as if we get 5 paragraphs talking about the purpose of the room that serves absolutely no purpose at your game table. So there is that. I really think that this is absolutely packed with great content. Last year, I mentioned the first volume of Gods of the Forbidden North was one of my favorite role-playing game releases, which I had an opportunity to review. That is also the case with Volume 2. There might be too much content in this book because, like I said, 530 pages of content here and about 390 pages is adventures. So I could see game masters out there trimming a lot of stuff out of this campaign, but you are still going to get tons and tons of gaming out of Gods of the Forbidden North. Just think about it. This is 530 pages with PDF. It's $69.99. Now, some people might balk at that price. And to be honest, just taking a peek on DriveThruRPG, you see that $69.99 and kind of thrown back for a minute. But there are a lot of publishers out there who are releasing 250-page lore books with really no gameable material in them for $49.99, $59.99, $69.99. So I do feel that you're getting a lot of value with Gods of the Forbidden North, both volumes 1 and 2. Here's an example of those pages that have a lot of dark ink. Now they kind of bow strangely. All right, so that is a peek inside Gods of the Forbidden North Volume 2. Let's swing on over to the other camera. I'm going to share some final thoughts as well as my review score. So I really did enjoy the first volume of Gods of the Forbidden North. It is a frozen northern area. It's got a little bit of a Nordic vibe to it, but something I thought was very cool about the first volume is it's not just all Vikings. In fact, you really don't find Vikings in the Forbidden North. So I thought that was kind of cool as well. As far as the world building, I think it's outstanding for Gods of the Forbidden North. And I think that's, in my opinion, probably its biggest selling point overall. The adventures throughout are very solid. They do have a bit more of a modern feel to them, even though they've got an old school vibe. do tend to have a little bit of a Pathfinder 5e D&D feel to them as well. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing unless you are somebody who just is got to have an OSR presentation. And of course, obviously enough, the second volume of Gods of the Forbidden North probably is not going to be your bag. I do also want to let you know that currently, as I record this, Volume 3 of Gods of the Forbidden North is up on Kickstarter. It is fully funded. And myself personally, I am excited to see how this adventure campaign will conclude. So I feel second volume of Gods of the Forbidden North is absolutely jam-packed with adventuring content. Yes, I would probably trim some of that out, but all in all, I think it's a fantastic value. And once again, I think it's the world building, which is the main selling point of Gods of the Forbidden North. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give the second volume of Gods of the Forbidden North an 8 out of 10. Like it a lot. I am super excited to see how this adventure campaign will conclude. All right, that's it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.